our favorite video game music from 2002, chosen by producers Prince, Chris, Rudy, Rasher, Syphilin, and El Azul, although nobody picked anything from Morrowind or Super Mario Sunshine. This is Delfino Plaza. Our first track is chosen by Chris. It is from Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos. The song is called Black Rock and Roll. All right. Definitely not what I expected to hear from the name, Black Rock and Roll. Not really a lot of rock and roll, but it definitely has, like Prince was saying, the idea, the sound of two ogre armies in the desert. I could see the desert because there's a lot of sparseness to it. It's not like a lot of floaty and kind of romantic violins. There's a little bit of crash work. It's mostly a slow march, which gives that sense of a larger army. Da-da-da-da-boom, boom. But then with that heavy kind of pulse, almost like you're watching, you know, like a fleet of elephants or something slowly come towards you with little goblins riding on top of these elephants. And it has a softness, like the battle hasn't begun yet. There's not, like I was saying earlier, there aren't a lot of cymbal crashes. There aren't a lot of anything too dramatic. No big hits. It's all tension. It also has like a big volume swell in the beginning. Those really low, like those horns are as low as possible, really kind of growling. Very Jaws-like, of course. Da-da. But a little more kind of bluesy and fun. Maybe that's where they get the black rock and roll from. A great track. Not exactly what I was expecting, but would be perfect for feeling like you are slowly building up for a gigantic confrontation that's about to happen. 2002 should be pretty fun for gaming because we've got PC, GameCube. I mean, the Dreamcast was still out there. The Xbox, the original Xbox One. The Xbox, you might call it. PC gaming, of course. Lots of handheld gaming. Fantastic year. We're going to have tons of variety, so let's get into the next one. Our next track is from the RPG, I assume, Grandia Extreme. That's right, we still had some of that 90s marking of things being extreme. This is Combat Music number 4. Oh. Wow, this track really builds. Like Chris says, very confident elegance. Like that of a team who really knows their stuff. Oh, that was great. Just like exquisite. Oh, my favorite kind of chord changes. Wow. This track really has it all. It's cool that about really a minute and a half or 2 minutes into it, it gets really serious and just builds like crazy, where you feel like if you're still in the battle at this point, it better be something really epic. It's like so well orchestrated, so many little touches. There's so much movement within the orchestra. Sometimes orchestra stuff can feel kind of like a little heavier, but this, especially with that sort of like galloping drum beat, really quick bass, and the way it is a bit of a hybrid with rock music. So well done. Like, what an epic composition. Man, that part in the middle. Oof. What a build. Yeah. I like the way those trumpets sort of like machine gun their way in. Awesome. Alright, you crazy kids. Super Smash Brothers Melee came out that year, apparently. And you might be thinking, oh no, that's a ripoff. You can't just put in Smash music because it's just going to be a Link song, a Link remake, Link song from a Zelda game, or maybe a song from Metroid or Mario. But whoever chose this one chose correctly. They picked the Super Smash Bros. Melee opening theme, original to the game, composed for the game's release that year. Let's listen. Wow. It does such a great job of announcing it. I love those horns they have in the stereo, the way they're coming in. Bom, 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 bom. Feels like they're all just kind of lining up, all the different competitors. Mario, Link, Samus, Kirby, getting ready to just beat the crap out of each other. Very epic, but really fun. I like the way they kind of started off here, where it sounds like the fighters are sort of squaring off with each other. Kind of getting set, sort of, you know, like when two dogs or two cats are circling each other, where they jump to the left and right. And then some nice kind of soaring, heroic melodies for all, because all these characters are heroes too, right? Really good. And it has a lot of reverence. I don't know if... I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a real instrumentation, they might have spent the money to just orchestrate the main track, at least, and take it really seriously. This game is going to become one of the most important Nintendo franchises moving forward. Oh, what will come? Our next track, another gigantic franchise that got its start back in that era, Ratchet & Clank. This is from Kirwan Metropolis. There's a lot to dig into on this track. We're only 2 minutes in, and there's 7 minutes 52 seconds on this recording. But it sounds like it goes through a lot of different places. But I like what you're saying there, Prince. It sounds like you're in a secret mission in a toy shop. It's actually a facade for alien activity. And Solace pointing out at the space industrial environment feel of it. And Chris, Ratchet Clank Center, really gets across that fire that you're an action hero, but in space. Amen. Oh, I see. I thought you were voice to speech because you were driving a big semi-truck somewhere. Yeah, this track has a lot of sort of like an industrial type late 90s, early 2000s kind of rhythms to it. But then some really kind of crisp instrument choices that are very kind of cartoony and very Pixar-y. And but then you've got like harp and a lot of kind of bleeps and bloops that give it this sci-fi spacey feel to it. And then you also have a lot of spy type stuff in there. James Bond, the kind of like boom, down, 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 down. A lot of like descending fifths, and even these kind of like these like spacey 1950s kind of ooh sounds. So it's kind of it's like a very retro feeling track, evoking stuff from the 50s and the 60s. Their idea of sci-fi, which is maybe kind of sort of like goofy or sort of idealized, like silly in B movies, which works with this game because this game, Ratchet & Clank series, has a lot of humor in it. Great track. Does a lot. There's a lot to get into and plenty more. We're just reaching the halfway point of this track, but on to the next. Our next track is much more serious. This is from Suikoden number 3. This is the opening track. Man, so emotional. The first 4 chords are the same ones from I Will Survive. So if you go, first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. So it's just a way of, that chord progression gives you the sense of down and then up, down and then up. And those choirs, I mean, the only other time I've heard choirs like that, just like Chris was saying, definitely sounds like the opening track in the Japanimation film Ghost in the Shell. Maybe that's really common in certain types of Japanese music. I don't know, Japanese opera, or maybe like period stuff from around then. It has sort of like a tribal feel, or people in a village, almost people like imitating birds or the animals around them. Boy, that monster, that dragon they're fighting certainly has a look about it. Reminds me of something. Beautiful track, a lot of heaviness. Again, it sounds like people kind of marching to their death, but they're happy about it, or like being sort of rescued at the end, or there's an eventuality, but a definite peace to it. Beautiful track. Suikoden 3, Everlasting Love. This track I have not heard of before. I haven't heard of this game before. Nickelodeon, Rocket Power, Beach Bandits. The skateboard shootout theme. 1972. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. That was a glorious disco track. You've got this pumping drum beat and bass, but everything is really, really fun and heavenly. And it just surrounds you with these like constant strings. And just everything is very like orgasmic and very positive. I mean, it's also really swanky and sensual, and then kind of spacey. Like, this is those ba-da-doo are pushing the limits of technology at that time. So it was their version of what would sound futuristic. But it's just like, once you get through this opening kind of tension-setting rhythm, the horns come in and just like really celebrate, push it along, pumping it up in this beautiful pre-chorus, and then when the chorus hits, it's just total disco ecstasy. Woo! Nothing bad can ever happen. Hey, if you don't like that Nickelodeon stuff, we got something real serious for you. Famed Hollywood film composer Michael Giacchino known for such films as Rogue One, a Star Wars story. What else has this fella done? Oh, I think he did. The Star Trek reboot theme as well. The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Spider-Man, Jojo Rabbit. He's going to be composing the upcoming Batman movie, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson. But way back then, this fella wrote music for Medal of Honor, the video game series. So let's check this out. This is from Medal of Honor Frontline. The track is called Clipping Their Wings. Wow. That is fantastic. Really surprises me how similar that is to what George Lucas did in the 2015 Star Wars film, The Force Awakens, The March of the Resistance. I mean, this part here, this sort of like... No, what's that? That's actually from Rey's theme. Bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-da-da. Like really, really similar. They're going to the same place kind of melodically, and sort of like those flute, those kind of like yearning flute and high violin things on the top that are like really, really Star Wars-y, where John Williams has this sort of the villainous lower, big fat horns underneath, and then sort of like a smaller, heroic, more vulnerable sounding instrument on top. Like the opening of the first Star Wars movie when the little ship is tailed and being chased by the impossibly long Star Destroyer. Fantastic emotion brought out here. And just, oh man, endless tension. And it doesn't sound like there's such a big struggle happening here. Fantastic. How lucky were gamers back then. Way to go, Michael Giacchino. You got a future, kid. Back to our RPG roots. This next one is from Wild Arms number 3. It is called Migratory Birds, Wandering Birds and Scoundrels. Just waiting for it to take off. Oh, yeah. Excellent. All right, so from the whistling melody, it's obvious it's very inspired by the Western cowboy soundtracks of Ennio Morricone, who set the tone and the music for so many great Italian westerns. Obviously, really inspired a lot of what Quentin Tarantino was doing. And, yeah, it's like Chris is saying, it's very nonchalant and unjust, it sounds. That's interesting. I mean, you've got like a galloping rhythm, a lot of kind of stops and starts, but the whistle just gives it this feel of one person against all the odds, a very heroic melody and scale, but also it's a cheerful sound whistling. Not unjust. Yeah? What were you trying to say? Nonchalant and unassuming? Anyways, it's a great cowboy track. I love the bass too. The tone of the bass is so nice. I was kind of waiting the entire track though for it to really get it, and it just kind of build, and then finally give you that like. But it never really does that. It waits. Really nice track. Wild Arms 3. Next up, another mascot franchise started back in this PS2 era. This is from Sly Cooper. The track is A Strange Reunion. It's a really jammy track. It likes to take its time really establish a couple riffs and establish some musical motifs, and then build on that and expand for a few minutes, and then it really switches gears and establishes something totally different and then builds on that. It's interesting because the bones of this section here, they're so simplistically done, and they're also really done in the style of NES music. Even the tones kind of sound like NES drums or bass. And then you've got these like these quick arpeggios, which are a way of, on the Nintendo, when you only had, you're so limited in the amount of instruments you could use. If you wanted to flush out a whole chord, you would do see it, because it couldn't do all the notes at the same time to play the whole chord, like say a guitar could or piano. So you'd have to play every note one after another, and then use a bit of delay to make it sustain and sound like something more notes are playing at one time. So this is quite a long track. It's another post 7-minute track. So I would urge you to check it out if you want to hear more and more. This is the Final Best track. It builds 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and on it goes. One of my favorite composers, Yoko Shimomura. This is her track called Dearly Beloved, from the game that shall not be named. Yeah, there is something about Yoko Shimomura's ability with piano and strings to really make it feel like it is just bursting with a heavy emotion. I think of what she did in Final Fantasy 15 with Somnus. Like Chris says, each note sounds pained. It's like, I don't know, reflecting on those parts in your heart and mind or in your life that you don't want to. Like a painful nostalgia in a way. Or maybe painful that it is only nostalgia. It's so gorgeous. But it's not, I wouldn't call it cloying, or I wouldn't call it overly sentimental, or you know, it's not unearned. There's just, it's amazing how in just a few notes she can instantly get it across through how she plays those notes, the speed she does it at, what's surrounding them. Very powerful. Our next track is from Panzer Dragoon Orta. It's called, and you probably already know, Anu Orta Vania. Wow. It's amazing how epic a different language and a very dramatic version of singing the song can make things like, when it's daytime, we will work the fields. When it rains, then we will get the harvest. But then there's other dramatic things in here, like, before my tears freeze my eyes shut. I don't want to inhale the poison clouds. Oh, it's ramping up here. I like that jaw harp thing. They seem to, the Japanese composers, they tend to go to that a lot for a lot of JRPGs. Anything that takes place in a place they, I guess, with a lot of open fields, they think Australia. But I guess that's the difference when you live in that part of the world, right? For us, if we think of well, for me, in North America, when I think of open fields and, you know, a sunny place, I think the middle, any of the places right in the middle of America or Canada. But I guess if you're in Asia, right above Australia, that's where you'd think. That's where the open spaces are. Or maybe China, but I have a feeling Japan tends to ignore China a lot of the time. A lot of bad blood. Alright, enough of the serious stuff. Back with another Prince track. This is from Nickelodeon Party Blast on the original Xbox. There's SpongeBob, the Rugrats, they're all here. This track is Zim 1. So dastardly. A certain Mozart piece? I love that part. It's so sort of like villainous and kind of cartoony. A whole lot of kerfuffle built up about nothing. Really fun. A nice mix of, you know, symphonic stuff and sort of like goopy, gooey, cartoony bleeps and bloops. A bit of like a reggae feel as the strings are hitting on the upbeat. Just like a very fun, futuristically industrial track. Really catchy, kind of dancey. Just a fun track that's trying to get some dastardly, villainous ideas across, but in a very, very family-friendly way. Dastardly. Our next track is from Divinity. This is from Larian's fantastic franchise, of which I've only played Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, but apparently a long time ago, there were these other games. Divine Divinity, Beyond Divinity, and Divinity 2, before they did their big reboot with Divinity Original Sin. There's also a spin-off, Divinity Dragon Commander. A whole lot. All right, let's see what this is going to sound like. I have no idea, but I'm very, very excited to hear it. Wow, incredibly epic. This is like loading up a bunch of soldiers. We will defend this land. We will not give in. We will not go into that night. Many of you will die. But freedom and your government's control of the gas in this region will remain far beyond your life. Get out there! Go burn down a village. It's an interesting track because it never stops building. We're at 2.5 minutes and it's been pushing and pushing. There's so much tension. Something has got to give. Wow, and then it backs off. That's what gives. And then that's it. That's the whole track. Interesting. So this track is called On the Brink of Defeat, which does make it sound like you're getting... It's almost like you're being backed up inch by inch, and a few feet behind you is a cliff. They're going to back your whole army off it. Powerful track. Hey there, how about Dark Cloud 2? Dragoon Orta Workshop. Europe had a different name. In Europe was it Dark Chronicle, and North America was Cloud. They usually do that where the North American name, they want it to be something very simple and strong sounding. Dark Cloud. North Americans know that. It rains on them. Chronicle, 3 syllables, hard to spell. If you're assuming that a continent of people are going to be dumber, God, that sounds so racist. If that was about anyone other than North America. Imagine if I said that about Africa, you know? But no, I'm talking about North America. It's the same thing with Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or... No, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and then North America was the Sorcerer's Stone, and they probably even changed it to like Sorcerer's Sword or something. Sorcerers we get. Philosophy? Not making money with that. Is what they think, anyway. A great track. Folksy, medieval. It's got very nice, very subtle rhythms. Kind of dreamy. Almost like you got a bit... It's kind of like daydreamy. You know, you're working, but there's not a big pace. It's like things that are moving along, but the way that they have that beat at the end of the bar, and also pushed back just a bit. It's like you're in a workshop where there's a hammer hit each time. Boom. Boom. But there's a lot of little things going on between. A boy and a magic rock. Keep it simple for them. We were talking about Spyro earlier, another track sounding like it. Now is the time for 100% pure, unfiltered Spyro. I don't know why it says Enter the Dragonfly, but it was composed by Stuart Copeland, Kenneth Burgomaster, Peter Neff. Stuart Copeland, of course, the drummer from The Police. What a cool idea to get a legendary rock musician in to do your track. This one is called The Honey Marshes. sounds like Sandstorm. Really fun track, blends a lot of different genres. We've got some sort of like bluegrass sounds with the banjo, the harmonica. The bass and the rhythms behind it are very sort of like world techno. Definitely what you'd be hearing in the late 90s and late 90s, early 2000s. Like a lot of the Stuart Copeland, Spyro the Dragon music, you've got a really fun, kinetic, dense layer of percussion. And then a few other instruments are chosen just sort of groove and kind of vamp on top of that. Which is great if you're if for a game like this where you're going to be slowly exploring a big level at your own pace. Tracks like this give you just a bit of get up and go. Not a lot of urgency, other than to just like keep pushing forward. Yeah, that's what they did in Spyro PS2. A tank. You ever get sick of being a dragon that can fly? A really unmistakable franchise for its music. Once you hear this music, you know it's from Spyro. So that's quite an accomplishment just there. Well, I don't know what this is. Gungrave on the PS2. There's always one element that shows up each week that is unexpected, yet oddly consistent, appearing many times throughout the show. Sometimes it's an instrument, maybe harp or the flute, if we're talking about woodland tracks. This week it has been Anime Cowboys, and there he is, just thrusting himself right in your face. From Gungrave on the PS2, this is Gunlock. Wow. That is cool. Yeah, like Chris is saying, the song feels like it's dragging itself along, and it's because the that really low bass, it's not playing perfectly within the lines. You know, it's not going boom, boom, boom. It's always kind of like pushing ahead, or it's dragging behind. So, and the bass is just so powerful and influential. Whatever the bass is doing sounds like it's the right thing. So like Chris is saying, if the bass is playing a bit against the grain of what all the other time is doing inside of it, all the other instruments, the bass will always sound right. So it'll sound like the bass is dragging the song around. Like if you had, you know, a weight at the bottom of a floating balloon. The balloon can be moving all over the place, but there's that weight at the bottom that will always win out. And then we have this gorgeous little piece right at the end. That's nice. This is like watching a sunrise. The Grand Canyon. Beautiful. All right, that was quite serious, so let's balance it out with something from Rugrats, The Royal Ransom. Fly High, Egg Hunt. This is only a 58-second track. A lot of mouth harp today. And didgeridoo. Man, there are some really, really strong loops in this. Some really, really catchy riffs. Just really like creating a lot of energy and movement there, but still pretty laid back. Kind of inquisitive. Like the vibes. I don't mean the vibes as in the way it feels, like literally the instrument, the vibe. Or xylophone, or marimba. I can never tell those things apart. But it's whenever you're playing a piano that's made out of like bamboo or wood. You're playing with the mallets. A lot of things going on. I mean, they're obviously trying to convey probably quite a lot of different elements, right? Like, it's so funny, these video games from back then. Okay, so Rugrats is a show about a baby. And here he will be in a forest firing off a bow and arrow. But because he's a baby, we'll put a plunger on the end of it. Because that would be easier for a baby to fire off. More believable. I like the harmonies on those. They're not at all pleasing sounding. Makes it sound like something really wrong is happening. Nice little track. Definitely sounds of its time. We are coming up in the end. How about a track from a great game and a great soundtrack? Time Splitters 2. This is Neo Tokyo. Man, that chord change when they went to that major chord there just really turned everything on its head. It was so heavenly. Like what a beautiful payoff. That's something else we've been hearing a lot this week. We've been hearing a lot of anime, cowboy stuff, and a lot of sort of tribal chanting. That's sort of like ancient kind of chanting you might hear in like an Eastern temple of some kind. Very Arabic sounding. Man, that was so powerful. Oh man, what a great track. It's funny too because this is a game where you run around really quickly and shoot people, but you also take your time with stealth as well. Is it right here? I love it. All right, let's see what Tekken 4 can bring to us. This is called Uninhabited from the console version. I wonder if this is going to ever change. It reminds me of when my cousin... Oh, it's a really abrupt change. A really sloppy loop. Unless they're trying to catch you off guard. You know, maybe being a fighting game. Pretty simple track, but it does a great job of setting up some tension. As Prince says, sounds like you're fighting in a skyscraper overlooking a cyberpunk city at night. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely has like a city at night, maybe some helicopters around, or definitely on the roof of a building, you know, surrounded by steel and glass. Kind of reflective, non-organic sounds. Shiny technological sounds. Xiao Yu versus Combot. Don't misspell that. For our final track in the top 20, I'm going to pick a game that was released in 2002. At the end of 2002, in Japan, it is Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. This is Dragon Roost Island. one of the strongest Zelda tracks out there. And that's a franchise with a lot of... came out with a lot of great music in that franchise. Man, it's so... It does the Zelda thing of being kind of a rollicking Dorian scale heroic melody. And then they decided to embrace the game's theme of being in the water and being on ships and give it this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So whenever you do a 3/4 or a 6/8 like that, you end up with it's a very like floaty feel. You know, it gives you this feel like you're rollicking through the waves. When you think of sea shanties, that are almost always done in a waltz time. And that guitar, but it's not like a guitar because it's super high up, so it makes you feel like you're visiting some sort of like coastal Mediterranean or really exotic land where they have their own kind of guitars. It kind of sounds more like a charango or something out of South America. And I just like how it's so... It's barely being played in terms of the contact with it, but there's so much speed. And the castanets, and a real kind of like Latin bass line. Fantastic. I love it. What a beautiful track. It's pretty amazing just looking at how this game looks coming up back then. I mean, this is still one of the best Zeldas ever made in terms of its visuals. It's incredible. Wow. All right. Well, let's pick a theme for next week. Halloween 2 Electric Boogaloo? We shall see.